So this morning, what we were going to talk about is really having enough life insurance. And as simple as that may sound, it's actually a pretty important thing. And I know a lot of folks nowadays, thanks to the internet and education of financial services, a lot of clients out there a lot of times will think they know what they need or what they want, and really it's not often adequate, and that's the challenge. And so we have a couple good pieces that, one in particular here, the Do You Have Enough piece, that actually does a great job, a very simple job, but a really great job of helping people understand that. And we're going to go through that in just a moment. But first, what I was going to do was jump over to a little Insurance 101 presentation, Life Insurance 101. And this is a neat little presentation, really designed for speaking to families. Okay, does your family have enough? So, the most basics. What is it really? We like to think it's the most important thing that a client's ever going to purchase, because it takes care of their family. And what's going to happen if a breadwinner dies prior to when you plan to? And no one ever plans to die, but you don't want to leave the family in a lurch. And so if someone depends on you, you probably ought to be considering life insurance, right? That's the point there. So why aren't people buying more life insurance? There's a lot of different reasons, but a lot of times, again, a misconception, but they think it costs a whole lot more than it really does. I guess a lot of consumers really think that it costs 3 times the actual price. So, for instance, if a 20-year, $23,000 life insurance policy for a healthy 30-year-old, they may believe it will cost around $400. The actual cost can be around $150, obviously, if they apply for that. And we get that from the Life Health Pro resources. So that's one reason. But there's others. Really, what is it trying to do? And a lot of times people don't understand what all it can cover. They certainly often don't understand how much. Sometimes they don't realize how much they have. A lot of times folks will think, well, my employer gives me stuff, so that's enough. And you'd be amazed how many people don't actually figure out how much coverage the group actually gives them. And when they find out, they realize, wow, that's not very much. How am I going to live on that? And that's a challenge, right? And, of course, lastly, you do have to be able to afford to pay for it, right? But how long do you really need it? That's another good question. And that's where buying term insurance versus like some permanent can make a big difference, right? So the real question for this phone call really was, how much do I need, right? And income replacement really is the single largest section or important item that needs to be covered. Final expenses are good. It's good to have an idea, how much you're going to spend for burial, everything that goes into actually when someone dies, paying those expenses. But it's good to have an emergency fund also. All right, it's nice, I would say best, to put the spouse in a position where the mortgage is actually paid off, so that then they can kind of settle down and figure out, what's the next step? Are we going to move closer to the rest of our family? Are we just going to stay here? Do we downsize the house? Whatever needs to be done. But if the mortgage is paid off, they can breathe a whole lot easier, because every month when that bank note shows up, it applies extra stress to the family, especially if they don't have a regular current income to pay that. Of course, there's college funding, which is extremely important if you've got younger kids like I do. And then there's just the survivor's needs. If the spouse was not used to being in the workforce, for instance, they may find out that now they have to go out and get a job. And, oh, by the way, they can't make as much as what they thought they did because they've been out of the workforce so long. There's a lot of good reasons to really dig into it and get some answers. Income replacement in particular, well, you can see the slide there. 31% say they would feel the financial impact from the death of the primary wage earner within 1 month. Well, that obviously means that they don't have enough of an income to carry on, right? A lot of people say, well, with primary breadwinners gone, despite the fact that you're missing the income, a lot of expenses go down. The reality is the primary breadwinner didn't use that much hot water. They didn't use that much more electricity. They didn't eat that much more of the food that the overall family actually continues to need. So income replacement really is the primary need. Mortgage funding, obviously, it's a luxury to be able to put the family, the surviving family, in a position of paying off the mortgage. But the average mortgage is just shy of $150,000. You know, a significant number. And again, paying it off just gives the family a lot of flexibility then on what they're going to do next. If there's younger children involved who haven't made it through college, thinking of education funding is a huge deal. Granted, nowadays there's a lot of scholarships and so forth available, but the reality is schools cost a whole lot more money than like when I went to college. And so the average cost of raising a child until 18, they say, is about $245,000. And that was based on 2013 data. But add the cost of tuition for four-year college, and now it's just crazy, right? Nearly $500,000. And certainly, it's great to be able to put your children in a position that they could certainly go to the college, not necessarily any college that they'd want to. If there were enough dollars, maybe they could do that. But certainly that there wouldn't be more stress on the family, or the scenario where literally a child can't go to school. So the basic types of life insurance up here, term is the temporary protection. That's the most affordable, and that's what we're probably going to focus on at the end of the call. On the permanent protection side, we've got whole life, we've got universal life, we've got index universal, and variable universal. And we're really not going to go into those today, but let's just say that we have guaranteed universal life. And how does that work? It's kind of like term insurance, but for a longer period of time. And so certainly term is the easiest way to bulk up on insurance for temporary needs, which income replacement generally is considered, right? If you don't think you're going to work forever, then therefore term insurance would cover a temporary need until that point in time when you think that the primary breadwinner will not be working anymore. This is interesting too. Don't wait too long to buy the life insurance. When you're younger and healthier, it's more affordable, right? A lot of people say, well, I'll buy it later in life, you know, when it's time to pass things on. Well, guess what? You may not be as healthy. In fact, the average person is not as healthy. Some people are substantially less healthy. And what does that mean? That means they're going to pay a whole lot more money. And so if you just compare two healthy people, a 35-year-old male versus a 40-year-old male, you can see that already the premium on this particular scenario, $1.2 million death benefit for a 30-year term, goes up $50 on a monthly premium. And that's two guys that are healthy, okay? That adds up over time. And that's why it's important to get someone to buy the insurance as soon as they can afford it at the youngest possible point. Because A, it protects their insurability, and B, it's cheaper. Now, later in life, if and when they need more, certainly that's when you know, they can purchase more. But just by virtue of the older age, they're going to pay more, even if they're still extremely healthy. A lot of people not as healthy, then they're going to pay even more at that point in time. So this presentation was actually designed for clients. So the advice is really good, I think. Don't spring the topic of life insurance on them. You know, acknowledge doubts and concerns about people that maybe don't think you need as much, or don't like talking about it. Actually, a lot of people just don't want to talk about it because it's death, and no one wants to think about that. Maybe picking a good time or enough time, do some homework, have the background information ready, and then last but most importantly probably is focus on the family's goal, because every family's goals are going to be a little bit different. I believe this is the last slide. Medically underwritten policies usually require medical exams, and it's good to prepare your client for that as well, especially if there's going to be a blood urine. It's helpful anyway to avoid alcohol, salt, and fatty foods the day before, get a good night's sleep, and then try to fast. Don't eat before bedtime. The test results will come out better. Brian and I just have a situation of one of our agents that just did something like this, and he didn't fast, even though he was supposed to. And surprise, surprise, the labs didn't turn out quite like what we hoped. So yeah, try to get a morning exam. That's a good one. Avoid rigorous exercise that day. Skip the morning coffee and the cigarettes. Drink lots of water because you need to go to the bathroom. And have the meds available. That's another great piece of advice too, so that when the paramedic's writing everything down, it's all ready to go and quickly. Yeah, and you might want to sketch out the medical history too. And remember, for blood and urine, and they actually do have to take a blood sample. So,
hey, Michael, can I add in there? Can I add in one thing here? We tell a lot of our agents this, but go back to that slide. When they're doing all this, make sure you have your medication ready to go. Make sure you have all your medical history. Make sure you also have all your doctor's information so they can find if medical records have to be ordered, the doctor's name, phone number, address, where you last seen them at, every contact information, because sometimes that's the hardest part, is trying to find that doctor if they moved or they're trying to figure out who, where to go to for the medical records, and any testing, because your doctor may have some information, but the underwriters want the full testing. So if you went to a hospital and did testing, have that information as well.
Yeah, great point there. Great point. Thank you, Kathy. So now we're going to flip over here to this do you have enough piece. And I don't know if that's big enough. Can everyone see that pretty well, Kathy? I have a tough time making it bigger than that because then part of the piece slides off. It's just a real skinny piece that is tall and skinny, so it folds. It's a two-fold. So on the left it says do you have enough, and then and the rest is the back side. How much life insurance does your family really need? And then the guts of it are really if I can get to the guts of it. Here we go. Are as follows. And this again, surprisingly thorough for something so simple. So here's what we've got. You've got your analysis worksheet, okay? And again, I like this because it's so simple and yet does an actual pretty thorough job. It says, let's take your cash requirements, okay? A, B, C, D, and E there. And A is your final expenses. What it really costs for the final medical expenses, not covered by health care, maybe some deductibles or co-insurance, things like that. The funeral expenses, and like this piece estimates $6,500 to $10,000. I tell you what, in some cultures, there's almost like a party that's thrown, and they're very big and very expensive. That final expense cost would go up for those type of people, right? Next, we have an emergency fund, and experts always say that you should have like 6 months' salary in a side fund ready to go. If the family didn't have one created already, then that would be a cash emergency fund that you'd want created also. Again, roughly 6 months of your family's expenses. Next is the mortgage balance. That's pretty easy, how much you owe on the house. Then E is the education cost. Now again, this could be all over the place, depending on how many kids you have or the client has, depending upon whether you thought private versus public. There's big differences there. This piece is slightly dated, but it says the current average cost for private for a year is $37,000 in round numbers per year, and $16,000 for per year for public. Obviously, it can be more than that, and maybe you've saved some already specifically for that. So you could back out part of that number to say, well, we've already saved whatever it is, $20,000, so you want to decrease that number. But it allows you to very specifically guesstimate what you think those education costs would be. And you total those up. That's what F is. Whoops, went too far there. Try that again. So A through E, you add those up, and that's the current cash requirements, okay? Then we go into the long-term cash requirements. What does that look like? That's basically on the line G, what is the monthly income requirement? What does it actually take for the family to live on a monthly basis? Families live on monthly numbers. You don't live on a lump sum, which is what most life insurance policies will pay out. They live on monthly amounts. So you take, what's the family budget? This little piece says that generally 60 to 80% of the prior total income following the death of one spouse is what you're probably going to need. You know, I submit to you that it's probably on the high end of that, because one person, the breadwinner in the family, doesn't necessarily make the family cost that much higher. I mean, you need one less car maybe, and maybe that's where the biggest portion of it is. So you put that number in there. That's a monthly number. Then you multiply it by a cash reserve factor, okay? And again, this can be very complicated. This piece makes it pretty simple. You figure out how many years that income replacement needs to be done. And if the spouse doesn't plan to go back to work, you know, then that period of time might be all the way through retirement. It could be into retirement. You can see here we've got factors from 10 to 30. So you would take that number, you put it in there, and then multiply the G times the H, okay? And that's now the lump sum long-term cash requirement. Then you add the F line, the total cash requirements, to the I line, the total cash reserve required. And now you have the total need of the family. But to be fair, we want to back out the available assets, because a lot of times you're going to find that number is pretty large. And a lot of people may push back and say, oh, that's ridiculous. You know, we don't need a couple $1 million. That's crazy. You know, we're just an ordinarily middle American family, right? Well, so what's going to happen now is you're going to back out all the cash and savings, securities that are owned. If you've got retirement assets, throw those in there. Also, the life insurance already in force, because that's that much less that you would need. Any other liquid requirements, or assets rather, just whatever else the family may own, can be anything. And you're going to add up those available assets. Those are all liquid things, right? Owning a business is great, but it's not liquid. In fact, businesses can be extremely hard to sell. But you add those up, okay, that's at K through O, and that's your new line P. Then line Q down there is the new life insurance number needed, and that is going to be the J, which is the total current long-term cash needs, and subtracting out the total available assets. And that then is your new net amount needed, okay? Again, a lot of people are shocked when they see those numbers because they don't do the math, and they just don't sit down and figure out, well, you know, if we make $50,000 a year and that income is missing over the years, how much does it really add up to? And it always adds up to more than what people think, because a lump sum sounds like a lot of money. A lump sum of $1 million sounds like, well, heck, that would last a long time. The reality is, by the time you start spending it down, and sometimes it doesn't get spent on the things that were planned, the money runs out a whole lot sooner than what you might think. So that's going through the do you have enough piece. But I wanted to highlight a couple other things real quickly here, just to think about preparing people to have enough insurance, okay? And first of all, that's just because it's most often covered in term. American General has something that we call the selective term products. And what's different about our term products is that they aren't just 10, 15, 20, 30. There's 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, all the way through 30. So there's individual durations. And that can be a very handy thing to have around, because you can now customize the need and consequently buy less overall coverage for the clients. Like, for instance, if you only owe 22 years on the mortgage, well, then only buy a 22-year policy, right? So that's one thing to consider, trying to fit the need with the product that is most affordable. I'm going to try to pull down another piece here, and let's see if I can make this work here. Here it is. I'm not sure what's being shown now.
We're still looking at the same information you had up there. It says emergency fund, mortgage balance, available assets.
Okay, I'm trying to put up what I have in front of me right now. I'm having screen sharing. Is this it? Here we go. So I want to go over to my browser. There we go. It worked. No, it didn't.
Nope.
What I'm trying to show right now is, let's pause. Okay, here we go. You know, by the time I'm done with this presentation, Kathy, I'm going to be good at this software.
Doing great.
And I'll forget for the next time we go use it, right? I apologize for that delay there. So what I have up here is a web page from American General's website that's outside our firewall. And just to show you that there's product bulletins available, we've got some new rates on the street that came out in June. We're extremely competitive at this moment. Rated term is something that we do extremely well as well. But I'm going to jump around now and show you a couple different tabs here of a couple things. This is another page. It's aig.com/term, and we have a lot of great things there. What I wanted to highlight was a couple things. First of all, there's a rapid rater, and the rapid rater is right here, and it should come up in just a second. The rapid rater is web-based. There is an iPhone app that you can go and download, and there's an Android app that you can go and download. What's the so what of it? It allows you, just like I have on the screen here, to go ahead and quote some term from your phone or from your desktop very, very, very quickly. And what you see across the top is the underwriting classes from preferred best down to standard tobacco. And then we show all the durations from 10 all the way on up. And it's a real simple way to sit with somebody, and you could be in the line at a coffee shop or something, and real quickly say, hey, you know, you and I talked about this, but if you were best class, you needed roughly 20 a year, it'd be about $200 a month for an annual premium. If you're preferred tobacco, you know, it could be as much as $600. It allows you just to give someone a real quick ability to have an idea of what the term is going to be. And of course, it's American General's term rapid rater, so it only shows our rates. But we think that's probably all you need, right? That's a joke. So that's one thing that I find helpful. Another thing that's out on our website, again, available to anyone because it's wide open, is we have a calculator out there which is called the Human Life Calculator. And what this allows you to see, and I'll go back a page here just so that you could see this. I think it's going to pop up any second here. Yes, there it is. And the page is from the Life Insurance Awareness Materials, again, out on the public area under Retire Stronger. And what it will show you here is a human life calculator, which I think is really interesting, kind of sort of similar to what we did. But this basically says how many years until your retirement, what's your current income, return on investments, you know, if any, expected annual inflation rate, and it's literally a dial. You can put in whatever number you want there. If it was more like 20 years to retirement, well, then you just slide that little booger along, and it changes the values. And you've got two values that it shows there, based on someone who made $40,000 with what their investments are currently, et cetera, you would have roughly a $500,000 need adjusted for income growth. And if you wanted to put in inflation and income growth, then it grows to the second number, $700,000. So it's a nice little thing. Kicks out a report, and you can show it to people. But there's a lot of great tools on the website that you know, that help you show a client how much you know, they may need. What I would also mention is that we have a quick ticket which allows, and I know that, Kathy, you guys use IGO, I believe, correct?
We do. We also use your quick ticket.
So the quick ticket just allows a user to take just a couple basic pieces of information and submit that and let the company have Exam 1 go out and collect all the data for the Part A. So you just have to submit very basic information, and Exam 1 goes out and collects the data via an interview. Very, very convenient, especially convenient if it's a client that's in another location and it's hard to get together to do the interview and sign everything. That's a very, very convenient way to sell term insurance nowadays. That's one thing that you can do. Let's talk about one more thing. We talked about having the capability on term to cover different types of scenarios. American General has something called the Select Income Rider. And the Select Income Rider allows you on the term, and this is one of our best kept secrets, by the way. Most people don't realize this. We just don't talk about it enough, Kathy. That's the reason. The Select Income Rider allows you to turn a death benefit instead of a lump sum into an income stream. Okay? So I don't have it up in front of us right now. I don't believe. It would be in another spot. But the Select Income Rider allows you to, instead of saying, oh, like in our last scenario where the income, rather the total death benefit amount might have been $500,000, $750,000, and you may get pushback from the client, say, well, that's crazy. You know, we don't really need, my family doesn't need that. I've never made that kind of money in my life. And what they don't realize is that spread out over a long period of time, that income, that monthly amount can add up to that number, but they don't realize it. So if you put the Select Income Rider on the policy, what it does is takes the sticker shock out. So you have one portion of the death benefit paid out in a lump sum, and that's presumably what you would cover those immediate cash needs that are needed. You know, maybe that's 50, maybe it's 100,000, and then the rest of the death benefit is paid out as monthly income, and you specify exactly what that is and how long you want it paid out for. It's actually a more economical way to buy your term. But secondly, takes the sticker shock out, because you can say, hey, we talked about your income needs, and our lump sum amount came to, let's say, 100,000, because that was going to pay off your house, final expense, pay off the credit card, whatever you determined was important. And then the rest is whatever the number happens to be, $1,500 a month for the next 20 years. And then people think of it in terms of what their actual budget is. It's a lot easier way to position someone's monthly need as opposed to turning it into a lump sum, which of course always looks a lot larger. So let me just stop there for a second. Kathy, Brian, and anyone on the phone, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them at this point.
If anyone's got any questions, go ahead and type them up. We can ask, but I don't see any questions just yet.
Does that make sense, Kathy? Did I explain that in a way that is easy to understand?
I thought you did.
So the Select Income Rider, again, there's only a couple carriers that I'm aware of that even have this neat little feature. And again, it can come in very handy when you run into a client that says, wow, you know, my family doesn't need, you know, $1 million. That's crazy. You know, we're not rich people. I'm not going to leave my wife in that position. Oh, okay. But if you were the primary breadwinner and they need $1,500 a month every single month, or whatever the number happens to be, spread out over a period of time, that can take the sticker shock out of that sale. So that's the Select Income Rider.
I did have one question did pop up. Can you quote substandard on the Rapid Rater?
Substandard on the Rapid Rater. I don't believe it's set up to do that. The Rapid Rater just generally, let me pull it up. There it is. paused. The Rapid Rater is just designed to show the 4 non-tobacco classes and the 2 tobacco classes.
Okay. That would have been way too cool to show.
So that's the short answer.
You have extra,
however,
flat extra,
down in the left,
and table rating.
Correct. It is actually, so it doesn't display it initially, but like in my scenario right here, if I wanted to go in and put a table B, then I submit it, and it actually should be included.
Okay.
I forget that that box is there, quite honestly. So now you can see, oh, there it is. So there's the special, which is a table B in this case, non-tobacco, and then there's the special if it's tobacco.
Okay, so it doesn't show, okay, you just get the table B rating. You don't get the, like anything around it, like a C or
Correct.
B.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Wonderful.
So, I mean, you know, most often people use the Rapid Rater just to show the regular rates. If you thought it might be a table B or, you know, 4 tables, and you go back and you run 4 tables, and it should come back here in just a second. I always forget. I have to click one more thing, don't I? There it comes. So now for 10-year, 4 tables at 10-year is going to be $416, and then the special is $1,100. Special tobacco, that is.
Nice.
All right.
Yep.
So again, very, very handy little tools. Something else I wanted to mention real quickly, though, because different people show the term rates different way. You know, the average, and I don't know what the exact number is. I don't know if it's 60-40. It might be as much as 70-30. Most people actually buy term and pay monthly, which is really not a bad idea because Check-O-Matic is it's nice and easy. It's in the budget. People get used to it. Comes out, excuse me, automatically, and it works very well that way. So what am I saying? Our modal factor is you pay more when you do it that way, right? And our modal factor is 0.0875. That's multiplied against the annual number. Well, if you see our bulletin in the next week or so, you're going to notice that we're lowering that to 0.0865. And the so what of that means, A, it's cheaper, right? But it also means when you run our rates against other carriers, we're going to be much, much more competitive. Again, some people like to show annual premiums. Some people like to show monthly ones. On annual, we're extremely, extremely competitive right now. Now this is going to make our annual premiums, our monthly premiums much more competitive as well. And I think you'll definitely see that. So, Kathy, I'm not sure if your website forces someone to look at one or the other, or do you just give the agents the option to look at whichever one they prefer?
On the iPipeline, it actually you can put in monthly, annual, quarterly, or whatever you want. But when you look at the full illustration at the bottom of the page, so let's say you selected monthly, you will actually see all the other plans available.
All the other modes?
You can actually see everything. Yep.
Great. Good. Well, that's one of those interesting things. In fact, I really didn't really remember that sometimes because of modal factors, your annual rates can be extremely competitive, but the monthly ones sometimes not so much. So this is American General's way to be more competitive on the monthly side as well. So we're excited about that because it will now put, I'm told, our current rates will be in number 1 position. If you use the modal factor 36% of the time, will be top 2 82% of the time, and top 3 92% of the time when our modal factor changed when you're comparing modal premiums. So look for that to be very, very competitive also.
Wonderful.
Well, that was what I wanted to hit on today. I know after the call we can always email out some of the locations of where these items are located on our website, because we do park them in public areas so that agents can get to them and not have to log into our website. I'd be happy to do that. But last, before we do that, are there any other questions that we can answer?
I don't have any more that showed up here, so anyone can always call in and talk to Premier and just ask for a life marketer at 1-800-365-8208. We're always available to help you if you're something you're missed or a few of you started later, and we'll go ahead and make sure that when you send this information out to me, Michael, I'll share it with everybody that was on the website so they can actually see it.
Great. We'll be happy to do that.
Everything here looks great. I didn't know the Rapid Rater did that either, so that's awesome. That's good information for me to see too. So I thought I did something different, so this is wonderful.
Well, and then these things are always changing. You know, the websites are constantly being updated anyway, right?
Right.
So,
you know, the nice thing, this actually did happen to me this week. I was running quotes, and we ran monthly, and when they came back and they said, you know what, I need to see annually. Well, I showed them annual, but they wanted me to rerun again just to verify. And it was amazing how by showing annual, you guys came up really far into the lead of the other carriers. So with your monthly changing, that's, I think, going to be a big benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited about that. Yep.
Good. Great. Great. All right, everyone.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you for your time today. And if we can do anything to facilitate the life insurance sales, we'll be happy to help you. Thank you, Cassie.
That sounds great. Yep. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great day. And thanks, Michael. Thanks, Bryant, for being online with us today. Take care.
Thank you.